Welcome, Rotarians and guests, to the 5,401st meeting of the Rotary Club of San Jose. President Karen is on a family cruise, and she asked that past President Carl fill in for her. But wouldn't you know it, Carl tells me he's caught in traffic. I'm Carl's Aunt Beulah. I'll be available after the meeting to tell you stories about Carl, but I'll be filling in for both of them today. I'm going to start the meeting by calling, have I welcomed you all? I'm supposed to welcome you all. Welcome. I'm going to start the meeting by calling on Nicholas Adams to the stage to lead us in a song, God Bless America.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Would you all please stand and join me in God Bless America? Hello, Aunt Beulah. I think I see the family resemblance here with Carl Salas, yeah.
Well, I'm more tight-lipped than Carl.
I think we might get some dirt on Carl Salas here today with Aunt Beulah in town. Yes, please join me in God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. I don't hear Aunt Beulah. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Aunt Beulah, weren't they great?
Yeah,
they're so
great.
good.
Let's hear it.
It's nice to meet you, Aunt Beulah. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, I'm so
Past President Carl.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry I'm late, everyone. Aunt Beulah, you know, I ride my bike here. There was horrible gridlock on the bike lane on the way here. It was terrible.
I don't believe you.
Honest. Let's see. Hey, thanks to the greeting line, the program committee, it's everything for us, the program committee. Thanks all of you in the program committee for greeting us today. Lindley Zink brought some sweet treats. Have you seen them? Lindley, are you here? I don't see you. Apparently, did he cook them? I think he actually has a bakery, and he's having a second story, if you will. So
You're standing too close to me.
Sorry, hon. Let's see. Oh, thanks to the Culinary and Hospitality Downtown Development and Disaster Relief Committees for hosting the table at the lobby today. If any of you are not in a committee, all three of these are great things to do. So please think about joining. Just try it out. You'll love it. Okay, how about guest introductions? Red badges with traveling mics, please introduce yourselves. Where are you? Oh.
Hi. Hello. I'm Carrie Benjamin. I just joined a month ago. Larry Stone is my sponsor, and I am in sports marketing.
Welcome, Carrie. There you are.
Hi guys, I'm Ava. I joined a year ago. I'm in real estate. Thanks.
Ava, welcome. Can Rotarians with guests and visiting Rotarians please stand for introductions?
Hello, Past President Carl, Matt Breaker, Prosecutor DA's office. I have two guests. I have my son Max, who's here today, just graduated University of Oregon, and my wife Sid, who seems to have left me again, but hopefully she'll be back shortly. We're big true crime fans, so we're very excited to hear Scott talk about his new book, which I read and was very enjoyable. I liked it a lot, so look forward to hearing about it.
Where? I haven't been up here in a long time, so. There we go, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara Marshman, and this again is my husband Will, my usual guest.
Ooh. He likes you and likes coming, doesn't he? Thank you.
Hello, Acting President Carl. Marvin Bamberg, architect from Campbell Rotary. I have two other Campbell Rotarians here, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Thank you. Campbell Rotary, John Shannon, International Education.
Yeah, John Wallace. I'm a pastor.
Welcome, you guys.
I'm Anil Oberoi from Rotary Club of Gangtok, Sikkim, India.
Oh, glad to see you.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Leckler. My sponsor was Ron Drake. My guest today is Edith Hernandez, the new event sales director at the Silicon Valley Capital Club.
When we did the large club conference, Edith was magic. Thank you very much, Edith. A year later, thank you.
Hello, past President Carl Salas. Anyway, nice to see you up there. Kathleen Thomas, I'd like to introduce my dear friend Susan Overland. She works for the Ministry of Center for Spiritual Living, and she also is a chaplain. So we've got a couple in the room.
Welcome. Is Anvil Obero here? Are you here? We're going to trade flags later, I think. Okay, we'll talk at the end of the... Oh, that's you. I'm sorry.
Emily.
I didn't understand your name. So we're going to trade flags afterwards. So thank you very much for attending.
Can I sit down now, Carl?
Well,
Please?
we had
You're
some-
standing too close to me, and it's not appropriate.
I heard we had some problems getting you in. Let me see what we can do.
Ow.
Oh.
Ow.
It's okay, I'm a doctor. It's okay, I'm a doctor.
Thank goodness. So now we've got new member introduction, which is always great, but I'm sorry to tell you, Larry Stone is introducing our new member.
All right, I'll try this. On the stool. There you go. All right, well, I am delighted to once again sponsor a woman to our club. Carrie Benjamin is a local girl born in Los Gatos, where she had lived most of her life. She graduated with a communications degree from the University of Oregon. Go Ducks. After graduation, she worked in Hollywood for about 5 years in the television and film industry on the production side of several television shows, including the popular series Charmed, the reality series Big Brother, HBO's Big Love, and Norm Macdonald's A Minute with Stan Hooper. She also had stints in several commercials and a movie, Lemony Sniff, is that it? Okay, all right, Snicket, okay. She eventually concluded that the Hollywood routine was not for her, and she came back to Los Gatos. She joined the San Jose Sports Authority, where she worked as a director of events for 17 years. This position involved extensive fundraising and executing major events, such as a U.S. Gymnastics Championship, Olympic trials for U.S. figure skating, the NCAA basketball tournaments, and the Tour of California cycling. She was also responsible for directing the San Jose Sports Authority Hall of Fame Reach Scholarship Program, which is chaired by Ronnie Lott and Brandy Chastain. Please welcome Carrie Benjamin.
Thank you. I'm so excited to finally have joined Rotary. I know several members of the club, and I've been asked for the last 10 years, and I finally have decided to do it. I am married to somebody I went to high school with. We have 2 children together, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I also have a 17-year-old stepdaughter who is going to be a senior at Los Gatos High School. Couple fun facts. I have dressed Team USA for the last 4 Olympic Games in their opening and closing uniforms with Polo Ralph Lauren, and plan to do that again next summer in Paris. I enjoy spending time with my family. I'm very fortunate. My mom and dad still live in Los Gatos, as well as my brother and my sister. So we're all very close-knit family. And I'm just excited to meet everybody. So thank you.
Put that on.
I think that looks...
Don't tell my mom.
Hey, welcome. Okay, next up, we've got a program committee update. And Charlie, you know I just love our programs. Keep it up, man.
Just because I haven't had hair in about 10 years. Scott, you have to wear this too. Hi, everybody. I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the program committee. For those who are new to the club, the program committee puts together the schedule of speakers who make presentations to the club over the course of a year. Our primary aim is to line up dynamic speakers on topics that we feel will be of the most interest to the membership, whether it be in the areas of politics, social issues, high tech, education, local concerns, the arts, or simply how we live. Sometimes we even try to find speakers who are just funny. We try to present a mix of speakers in terms of political viewpoints, gender, and background. Do we always succeed in these goals? No, but we try really damn hard. So here's how you can contribute. If you see and hear a speaker who would be a good fit for our club, please let me or any member of the committee know. We are also going to have a formal process, which there'll be more details about, where you can send an idea to the committee online. We'll have some more details in the newsletter soon. It really helps if you have a contact with the speaker and can provide background, videos of past speeches, that type of thing. Or think about joining the committee. We're always looking for fresh voices and viewpoints. We meet monthly at lunchtime on the first Tuesday of the month. The meetings are hybrid, and they are definitely lively. So if you think you might want to join, again, please contact me or any other members of the committee. Thanks for your time, and we hope you enjoy our upcoming speakers, including Scott. You want to go with this?
I don't think I need to, do I? There's something back there. So I do want to tell you, when I was president-elect, I went to a program committee, and when Charlie says they're lively, that is like the understatement of the year. So if some of you are interested in really getting some good speakers in lively meetings, think about joining the program committee. Hey, I get to ring the bell today. Let's see, do we have this? Is my... I'm showing ring the bell. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, oops. Sorry, I went too far. Ring the bell. Oh, yeah. Oh, I have the ring the bell. I'm going to start ringing the bell. So how many of you here know Julie Matsushima? Yeah. So she told me she was going... So I ran into her at Christmas time at the California Theater at a symphony thing. And she had this kind of nice looking guy with her. And yada, yada, yada. She texted me about, I guess, a month ago and said she was going to Greece. And I said to her, sheesh, Julie, I remember Marianne and I, my wife of 40 years, we actually got engaged in Greece. I hope you don't get engaged in Greece. And she said, don't worry. So when she got back, she said, well, we didn't get engaged. She actually got married. They got married in Greece. And Julie is going to ring the bell twice today for that new marriage. And she says life goes on, and she's just as happy as a clam. So now who wants to ring the bell? Got to make some money for the foundation. Everybody else can be thinking now.
I'd like to ring the bell one time. My daughter was out recently getting married. We have a date and a venue, and it's in California. Yay.
Hooray. And the big question, do you like him?
I'd like to ring the bell one time for Dave Cowan. As you all know, Dave is a sales trainer extraordinaire. He put together this amazing LinkedIn training that I attended last week, and part 2 was today, just before the meeting. He's a gem for our club.
Oh, okay, hello. Hi, I'd like to ring the bell once for the Farmers Caravan Foundation program. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to talk about that in a second, but thank you very much, Maggie.
Thank you, thank you.
I'd like to ring the bell twice. Once for the promotion of Gina Rodriguez as club manager at the Capitol Club and myself as the membership director. And then a second time for completing our team with Edith Hernandez as event sales director and a new office manager. So.
Hi, Past President Carl. I'd like to ring the bell one time for my sister Angel. She happens to have Down syndrome. She's almost like my twin. When she was born, the doctors told her to put her in an institution. She'd never be able to walk, talk. My mom said no. And then when she was growing up, the doctors said that she probably wouldn't live past her 20s. Next Tuesday, she turns 50 years old.
President Carl, I was up here a month ago, actually, to say that my son had gotten engaged, and I'm back to tell you that my other son has gotten engaged. But I want to make it clear, it's not to Kathleen's daughter, neither of them, just saying, okay? But we've got 2 sons, it could have been, but we got 2 sons now. Thank you.
But if it was, that would be really cool. I'd double down on that if it was.
Hi, Past President Carl. I'd like to ring the bell once in memory of my father, Bob Keefe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Past President.
Hey, it's so much fun being up here.
I'd like to ring the bell twice today. Once for our upcoming opening night gala for Symphony San Jose, which will be on Saturday, September 30th. And you can get your tickets by, this is my shameless plug, symphonysanjose.org. We are really excited to raise some funds for our youth education outreach program this year. The second bell is for a man you all know, a really selfless leader who served for several years as board chair of Symphony San Jose and is just recently passed that baton, pun intended, to the next chair of our board. So would you all please join me in thanking for his many years of service to the Symphony San Jose Board, Mr. Dick Conniff.
Hi, Past President Carl.
Hello, Matt.
I'm going to demand that you actually ring the bell.
Oh.
Because you haven't been doing that yet. But I'm not demanding, I'm politely asking. And I would love it if you would ring the bell one time for our very first fundraiser that we held a few weeks ago. A bunch of wonderful Rotarian friends showed up and supported us at Strike Brewery, where Rancho Robin Rescues had a successful day. So thank you everyone who showed up and came. And I think you have like 12 or 14 to do from the previous rings.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Oh.
Go ahead.
How are you doing?
Oh.
I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?
Carl, Past President Carl, how nice to see you again. I see, are you going to the Barbie show tonight with your pink shirt on?
No, but I went last Sunday, and
Oh.
honestly, it is so girl power. It blew our minds. It's a really good movie, surprisingly.
I'm going tonight with my granddaughter. So I would like to ring the bell for, on behalf of the new Neurodiversity Fund that we formed with Rotary. And I'd like to ring it 21 times to celebrate my first granddaughter's 21st birthday, just been passed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whoa, thank you.
Hi, past presidential. This is Octavia. I'm glad. I want to ring the bell 2 times, one for my son birthday, and also is getting his white coat for his doctor.
Hooray.
And the second one is I'm glad I'm back to the United States. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got our challenges, but it's still a great place.
Hey, past president.
Oh,
Past president, Carl there, I just mentioned to Gina Ward that you're wearing a Barbie jacket here for that. So I'm going to have to ring the bell twice. Once for your absolute excellent taste in clothing, and 2, I want to celebrate the new chair of the Downtown Development Committee's promotion out here for the Downtown Development Committee. Kathy Collins has done a fantastic job, and I hope everyone can get out to these tours that she's set up to see these things that are happening in downtown. So ring the bell twice for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, before we get any further, I want to ring the bell 1 time for my Aunt Beulah Sununu. Thank you very much, past President Karen.
Good afternoon, past President Carl. I just want to say that I've had the honor and pleasure of meeting Deanna's sister, Angel, and I want to also ring the bell 1 time for her birthday. Thank you.
Past President Carl, I'd like to ring the bell 2 times, a little belatedly. My son's middle son got engaged earlier this year.
Wow.
And after 3 sons and 3 grandsons, our first granddaughter is out visiting for her first trip to California right now from Chicago.
And I bet she's sweet. Those little granddaughters are sweet, huh? Oh,
Yo, Barbie fan.
you saw it, didn't you? It's good.
Larry Kiekler. I'd like to ring the bell twice for my stepmom, who just a month ago or so hit 106, and
Oh my God.
she's still going strong.
I'm sorry, did you say 106 times? Is that what you said?
No, I
didn't. We should probably call it. Anybody else? Great. Hey, thank you all. It's all. Oh, we got one more. There we go.
So I'd like to ring the bell once. So if you do a Google search for Whiskey Tasting San Jose, I do show up on the first page, the Whiskey Education Foundation, because the more you know, the better you drink. I will be doing a whiskey tasting at for Christmas in the Park, the Hot August Nights on August 20th. So great chance to enhance your palate. The 19th? For Hot August Nights. Okay. We'll be back in time from the caravan, right? Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Thanks to everyone. The foundation is really solid, and it's thanks to all of you when you ring the bell and the donations you make. Hey, next up here, we got to keep moving. We're talking about the Farm Workers Caravan, and John Shannon, the treasurer of the Rotary Club of Campbell, is going to come up, and I think you have something for us.
Thank you, Past President Carl, and thank also Bonnie Bamberg for your nice hospitality and inviting us here to join you today. But I want to thank all of you for your leadership and your generosity in helping the Pajaro Valley flood victims. Unfortunately, Campbell Rotary will not be able to join you on the 19th, but our members did want to present some checks to you for some monetary support of the caravan. So thank you all for doing that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And if I may, the reason we can't make it on the 19th is because we are having a free concert to support Polio Plus on the 19th in Campbell. So I have a few flyers if you're interested in that. Thank you very much.
My wife does all the adding in our family, but this is a lot of money. Thank you very much. Let's see. I think it's time for our speaker, and I'm excited. I was hoping we had a couple extra seconds because I've got some questions for you, Scott. Jim Towery, can you come up and introduce today's speaker?
Scott Herhold is a storyteller. He began honing his storytelling skills as an undergraduate at Yale, working for the Yale Daily News. After he got out, he ended up getting an offer from the San Jose Mercury News in 1977. That began a 40 years of employment as an editor, as a writer, and finally as a columnist. I was trying to figure out some way to communicate the impact of Scott's role as a columnist had on our community. And the best tribute I can come up with is Scott's own words. I'm taking a small passage from Scott's good farewell email that he wrote in November of 2017. This is what Scott said. So I've also tried to inject humanity and humor into this space. I've told stories about my father, Bob Herhold, a Lutheran minister who loomed large in my life. I've explored the niches and riches of San Jose's past. I've talked about my adventures riding the bus or pedaling my ancient Nishiki bicycle. I've tried to write about good people. And that is a good summary of what Scott accomplished. When he began his retirement in 2017, he didn't really retire. Rather, he started working on a book about one of the oldest cold cases in Santa Clara County regarding a murder that occurred at the Stanford University Chapel in 1974, if I have the date correct. And here to share the story of that cold case, please join me in welcoming Scott Herhold.
When I retired from the Mercury News nearly 6 years ago, as Jim pointed out, I told people that I was going to write a book about an unsolved murder inside Stanford Memorial Church. Very often they would ask, how did you get interested in that? Every now and then, though, you could sense another question or two muttering in the wings. Are you strange? And should we worry? The answer was no, unless my columns had already persuaded you that I was both strange and worrisome. It's not an unreasonable take. In fact, my research and writing took me on a voyage of surprise. On the back of my book, Murder Under God's Eye, I put it this way. The murder of Arliss Perry inside Stanford Memorial Church flummoxed detectives for nearly 44 years. Then the case ended with a bang. I could say the murder puzzled me nearly as long. The bang let me write with freedom. The story begins late on October 12th, 1974, a fairly ordinary Saturday night on the Stanford campus. A smattering of fraternity parties, a showing of the movie Casablanca, the football team playing a road game against UCLA. In the married student quarters at Quillen House, a young couple from Bismarck, North Dakota, Bruce and Arliss Perry, decided to finish the day with a walk to mail letters at the Stanford post office. Bruce and Arliss were both 19 and had been married just 2 months before in Bismarck. Bruce was a sophomore taking a heavy load of pre-med courses, and Arliss had just gotten a job as an admin at a Palo Alto law firm. I've got a shot here of Arliss. There she is. As they passed their car, Bruce mentioned to Arliss that she might want to fill the tires with air the next time she used it. Arliss didn't like that. In Bismarck, men filled the tires with air. Weary from a day of studying, Bruce told her he didn't want to talk about it anymore. It was the kind of tiff that any of us who has been married for any length of time knows well. As Bruce and Arliss passed by the Meyer Library, Arliss headed off towards Stanford Memorial Church. She was a devout young woman who believed in taking her problems to the Lord in prayer. Bruce, meanwhile, returned to Quillen House. In the early morning, when Arliss did not return, he walked back to the church and then drove around the campus in search of her. At 3 a.m., he called the police. At 5:40 that Sunday morning, a Stanford security guard, Steve Crawford, found Arliss's body underneath the pew in the east transept of the church. This is the scene there behind the pew on the left. A warning here, if you are squeamish, this is where you may want to cover your ears for the next 15 seconds or so. We won't hold it against you. The scene was haunting. Arliss was nude from the waist down, her body laid out in a quasi-ritual fashion. Her jeans were draped upside down over the body, an altar candle thrust into her vagina. She had been strangled, and the coroner, John Hauser, found an ice pick had been jammed into her brain, the handle broken off. The direction of the wound dictated that the killer was almost certainly left-handed. Without knowing more, sheriff's deputies initially had two suspects. One was Arliss's husband, Bruce, and so investigators put him through a punishing interrogation. Bruce convinced them he had nothing to do with the crime, and he passed the lie detector test. The second suspect was Steve Crawford, who had called in the murder with the strange words, "We've got a stiff here." Here's a shot of Crawford at the time. Crawford declined to take a lie detector test, but he was a former gun-carrying Stanford cop, and there was no physical evidence tying him to the crime. So investigators pursued the theory that an outside killer followed Arliss into the church and then escaped by breaking out a door. They even looked at name-brand killers like the Son of Sam and Ted Bundy. When I came to the Mercury News in 1977, the Perry murder was still relatively fresh, just 3 years old. And everyone in the Peninsula Bureau, my first posting, was familiar with the story. In 1991, I did a long article with Malene Hazel about the Perry murder, and I came to know much more about the case when Sheriff Laurie Smith let me read through the initial case file in 2008 on a background basis. These are the days before I wrote a column saying she should not run again. At the heart of my interest was a religious conceit. I am a PK, or a preacher's kid, the son of a Lutheran minister who lived in Palo Alto at the time. I thought if I could just interpret what the killer was trying to say in the layout of the body, I could solve the crime. After all, I knew my way around the Lutheran church, its liturgy, its hymns, its symbols. The title of my book is drawn from a fresco that was originally at the top of the Stanford church interior. It showed a huge eye, known as God's eye, with a tear about to drip on worshipers. Mercifully, it fell down during the 1906 earthquake and was not replaced. The Perry killing was one of 4 murders of young people in the Stanford area in 1973 and 1974, including 2 women who were strangled in the foothills. To me, the murder in the church stood out for 3 reasons. First, it occurred in a landmark sanctuary, a sacred space designed by Jane Stanford. Here's a picture of Jane. Some of you may know that Jane herself was murdered. Second, it involved a display, a ritual, a gruesome laying out of the body that was defiled. And finally, the victim was about as innocent as you could imagine. A young bride went to the church to pray and emerged as a victim of a terrible crime. Here, sheriff's or coroner's deputies are carrying out the body. The sheriff's department, then headed by James Geary, poured resources into trying to solve the crime. The deputies took hundreds of fingerprints, gave lie detector tests to dozens of people, and amassed a huge volume of physical evidence, but none of it pointed to a particular person. Remember, this was the era before DNA, cell phones, social media, and widespread CCTV. For the next 4 decades, it was the biggest unsolved case on the sheriff's docket. It was certainly the biggest unsolved case on my docket. I told myself that if they ever solved this crime, I was going to take a leave from my day job and write a book. This is a Mercury News headline from the time. From my reading of the file, I remember thinking that several facts pointed toward Crawford. He had disappeared from the scene after finding the body. He had changed his story about how often he checked the church. Years later, Stanford police discovered that he had stolen valuable artifacts and books from the university, including a blank diploma that he had filled out at a print shop, conferring upon himself a Stanford degree. Finally, he was left-handed. But these were a long way from conclusive, and they did nothing to explain the motive for the crime. Here's where I jumped in with my mistake. With the help of a source who was skilled at reading crime scenes, I seized on the idea that the layout of the body could be a chi-rho, that's spelled C-H-I-R-H-O, an early symbol of Christ. It's a P intersected by an X, and you can find it on the caps of priests or on the wallpaper of the Stanford Church. I even theorized that the killer could have been molested as a child. I was wrong in my reading of the scene. It was more a diamond than an X, but I didn't realize that for 6 months. It taught me some humility about my insight as a PK, or pastor's kid. I did get a potential break when I got an anonymous letter from a woman who claimed to have known Crawford well. She feared that he was somehow involved in the Stanford Church murder. In fact, she offered to meet me at a Denny's restaurant near her home to tell me what she knew. But in one of those mishaps that seemed to haunt my quest, I didn't get her letter until it was too late. She sent it to the main Mercury News office on Ritter Park Drive, and I was working in the downtown City Hall bureau. When I got to Denny's, she was long gone. Meanwhile, the sheriff's department was quietly making progress by uncovering its own mistake. 40 years after the murder, a cold case investigator, Rick Alanis, went carefully through each piece of evidence once more. When he got to a pair of Levi's jeans that were labeled as coming from Arliss, he noticed that they had a 36-inch waist. Now, Arliss was 5'5" and 125 pounds. She wasn't fat, and the chances of her wearing jeans with a 36-inch waist were minimal. It turned out that Bruce's and Arliss's jeans had been mixed up in the evidence locker. Bruce's jeans were labeled as Arliss's, Arliss's as Bruce's. In the new century, they had been sending out the wrong pair of jeans for DNA testing. Alanis does not like to swear, but his reaction was an eloquent, "Oh shit." The case took a decisive turn on June 28, 2018, when sheriff's investigators arrived at Crawford's Camden Avenue studio in San Jose to serve a search warrant. From the correct pair of jeans, the detectives had a very weak DNA match that would not have been enough to convict Crawford by itself. As they came through the door, Crawford lifted a .41 caliber Ruger handgun to his head and blew himself away with a very loud bang. I was visiting my mother at Palo Alto's Channing House when I got a call from a source who said, "Do you know what happened?" Here's a shot of Crawford as an old man. Odd as it sounds, heartless as it sounds, Crawford's suicide did a favor for a lot of people. It allowed Sheriff Laurie Smith to proclaim that the case was solved. It gave Stanford an explanation for a brutal crime. It let the DA's office avoid trying a case with loose ends. And because the dead have trouble bringing libel cases, it gave me the freedom to write about Crawford. The last chapter of my book is my reconstruction of what happened between the killer and his victim in the church that night. Even now, I can't walk into Stanford Memorial Church without thinking of it as a crime scene. A big piece of my story rests on the police procedural, but the murder in the church lifted a cracked mirror to a campus and community, a reflection that betrayed what we believed, what we hoped. It resounded in the number of people who tried to solve the crime and explain the havoc. So I tell the story of Dave and Pam Larson, a retired couple from Campbell who made solving the murder their retirement project, or former Stanford police captain Raoul Niemeyer, who was obsessed by the case and came to doubt how the sheriff resolved it, or Arliss's husband, Bruce Perry, who became one of the most prominent child psychiatrists in America, co-authoring a book with Oprah. I even got help from a friend, Rod Diridon Jr., who helped me understand how an ice pick could penetrate a coconut, with the coconut standing in for the human skull. Okay, I may as well stipulate right here, we true crime addicts are in fact strange. In the end, I came away convinced that Steve Crawford was the killer. If he was innocent, you'd have to ask why he would commit suicide. But there are enough holes in the story that I wonder whether a top-notch attorney like Alan Ruby might have been able to create reasonable doubt. Even now, I can't answer the question of motive, although I'm convinced it was something that happened in Crawford's early life. Ironically, child trauma was Bruce Perry's specialty. If you're interested in more, you can buy a signed copy of my book out in the lobby. I'll try to personalize it. Meanwhile, happy to take questions.
Go ahead. No, you're up here. All right. Are there any questions? Okay. Ms. Orloff.
Well done, Scott. Well done. Thank you. So what happens, was it the police department, or I guess it was the sheriff's department, when Steve Crawford refused to take a lie detector test? Do they drop it, or do they pursue it in some other fashion?
Well, they were disturbed by it, but there was nothing that forced him to take a lie detector test. He was a Stanford employee. Had they tried to fire him, his union would have gone to bat for him, and they probably would have won. There is no requirement that you take a lie detector test. It's just kind of strange.
Wait for the microphone to get there.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a question about the genes that were mixed up. How could they have overseen that mistake and not realize that? That could have really helped initiate more progress of the case. Sorry, I'm losing my voice with this. The case. Right?
I think you're right. In evidence, this is something I didn't know until I got deep into this case, but evidence is not stored in plastic bags, it's stored in paper bags. And around 2000, the Sheriff's Department took out all the evidence and they recorded it so that it can be made digitally available. It's possible that things got mixed up then. We don't really know how it happened. I don't think there was anything nefarious. I think it was about like your garage. You probably have some things in places you wish they weren't.
Further questions?
I have a question. First of all, I read the book. I loved it. Thank you very much. And thank you for writing it. I mean, what I wasn't clear about is, did you start the book before the case was solved, or was it a cold case when you started writing the book and then it was solved?
It was before the case was solved.
Okay, so did that change the way you were organizing the book at all, or?
Well, it made it a lot easier because, as I say, if you're writing a book about a guy who is still alive and the chief suspect, and he was always my chief suspect, then you have to tiptoe around the truth. You probably cannot come right out and say he is the killer, as I pretty much do in this book.
Right.
So it would have hampered me. I don't know how much, but it would have hampered me.
Okay. I also just wanted to point out that Matt Breaker is in your book, as was part of the case, our own.
Matt Breaker was a prosecutor.
Yes, he was, so, okay.
Hi, Scott.
All right, other questions?
Sal.
Did you ever have the opportunity to interview the suspect?
Opportunity is a generous word.
I'm being generous.
No, I didn't. I did not. It was something I was going to do right at the end of my research, and he lifted a gun and ended it all before that.
Scott, it's Steve. I haven't read the book, but I understand it's great, and I will read it. I have one question, though. Breaker's one of the top prosecutors we have here in Santa Clara County. How come the guy couldn't solve the case?
Oh, I think he did. I think he did. Au contraire, I think he did solve the case.
Hey, Scott, with such a high profile, one more question. Location in Stanford, and given the amount of time, is this going to be a movie someday?
Oh, God, I don't know. Part of me wishes it isn't, because it is pretty gruesome. And I don't know how much you can show in a movie. It's a hard one. Movies always change the way something happened. They need to create more drama than there sometimes is. So I don't know. It could be. I think a podcast is more likely.
Scott, a last question.
Oh, wait, I don't get a last one?
Oh, sorry.
I'm over here, Carl. Sorry, you mentioned a couple other murders that had happened there in that community. Was there any tie-in to that, for one? And how many unsolved murders are there in this community, I guess? How would you
Matt
do
Breaker
that?
probably has a better idea of that than I do. The other ones, the two strangled women were Leslie Perloff and Janet Taylor. And they looked at Crawford, was he possibly involved, but they eventually used DNA to convict a guy by the name of Gatru, who was convicted in both those cases. So, and how many are there? Boy, I'm not sure, but I know the DA's office and to some degree the local police departments, the sheriff, have made some substantial progress using DNA.
Scott, I have a Zoom question.
All right.
They're saying, what unsolved crime is interesting you now, and are you thinking about possibly taking it a step further?
Oh boy, I don't know. You know, it is one thing to finish a book when you're 40 years old. It's another thing when you're, in your 70s like I am. So I think you realize that it's a bigger mountain than you think in the beginning. So I don't know if there is another unsolved crime out there. I mean, one of the things is that this happened almost just very close to the time I arrived at the paper, and it was something I followed my whole career. I don't know of another case that's quite like that, although I'm sure that there may be one. Anyway.
Anyone else? Huh.
By the way, my maiden name is Johnston, and I have no relation to Steve Crawford. Anyway, I wonder about the publication of the book and what you went through in terms of getting it.
Yeah, I'm self-published, although I went through a South Carolina company called Palmetto Publishing. And what they do is they do the layout of the book, the design of the cover. They take you through the whole process with Amazon. And if you want to, you can hire a proofreader, which I did. I hired both a proofreader and a fact checker. My fact checker was very good. I like to tell people that she caught things like, well, my victim liked the music of Paul Revere and the Raiders. Now, you might think that how you spell Paul Revere and the Raiders is just neither here nor there, but for music fans, it is a big deal. You use an ampersand and not an A-N-D. Of course, my initial draft had Paul Revere A-N-D, and she corrected that right now,
All right. If there's no further questions, Scott, thank you very much.
One last question from Mary McLean. What was Crawford's motivation? Do we know?
We don't know. We do know that both his parents were alcoholics. He had a very rough childhood. He was often compared with his older brother, who became a Mountain View cop, and also a brother in the Holy Cross Order. Actually, the order was the other way around. He was first a brother in the Holy Cross Order and then later a cop. It must have been a pretty rough childhood, but what specifically, we don't know. I think he had seen her before go to the church, and he had talked. in an earlier report about how Stanford Church would be an eerie place for murder. So it was a guy who had somehow been thinking about murder. It may have been as simple as he wanted to see whether he could get away with it.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Scott, I'm going to tell you, I have a last question for you, not related to your book, but first I want to tell you that a contribution has been made in your name on behalf of Loaves and Fishes, and we really appreciate you here today. But my last question to you is that a lot of us here, I think, know that you're married to fellow libertarian Sarah Janigan.
I am.
And a lot of us used to read your column way back when. And I wanted to ask you, how do you think she puts up with you after all these years?
Well, it was funny when I was talking about the tiff between Bruce and Arliss. Of course, Sarah and I have our own tiff this morning, but we mostly laugh at it, I think.
Thank you very much, Scott. Hey, next week, our speakers will be Jessica Paz-Cadillo and Vanessa C., speaking on the School of Arts and Cultures. Once again, thank you very much to Aunt Beulah Sununu. And I guess my final thought for the day is, so when I started with Rotary 2001, we had to come back then. We got fined $25 if we didn't come. And I really, there's every excuse not to come to Rotary. And it was after some years I started thinking, I work really hard at work, and then I come to Rotary, and it's kind of like recess, like when I was a kid. And so I have every excuse. Even today I was thinking, well, oh shoot, I committed to this thing. I wish I didn't have to come. But it's like recess, and I want to remind all of you, don't forget to come to recess next week. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned.